Here we are, a middle of the week, Commanders with a little extra time off. I'm Nick Ashooh, and the biggest thing we're focused on, without question, is Jayden Daniels' injury status, Anthony.
Hey, Nick, we are going to focus on that, but I was looking at the tape. I want to see what Ashton Genty looks like, and I want to see what part of the game will make an impact for the Commanders on Sunday.
Hail to the Commanders! It's the Commanders Squad. Everything Washington Commanders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of the nation's capital. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Rally the burgundy and gold. The Commanders Squad Show starts now.
Anthony Armstrong, Nick Ashooh, David Harrison, when they wrap up practice and his responsibilities out there, will jump on with us from Ashburn as well. We're going to look at Jayden Daniels' injury status, practice today. We're, of course, recording this live on a Wednesday, so if you're listening or watching this later, you may know a little bit more, but we're working with what we got at the moment. We're going to look ahead to the Raiders and that game this weekend, the extra time off for the Commanders, and a familiar face is back in Washington, but we're brought to you by Mazda. Like players, they sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. So, Anthony, we know now, at least as of Wednesday, when you and I are doing this live, people obviously watching live, Jayden Daniels not practicing, throwing a little bit. We're really not going to know much more until they try to get him out on the field on Friday before that Raiders game on Sunday. You know, I've talked about this before with you, man, and that's my heart beating fast, because when we talk about a knee sprain, I remember very important knee sprains in the past with this organization and quarterbacks. Again, as I've said to you many times, it's not going to be the same thing, but the most important thing here is what Dan Quinn has said, is that they're going to be cautious, they're going to be smart with this, and they're thinking long-term, which is the exact thing that I want to hear.
Yes, you want to have that peace of mind knowing that the organization is going to take care of their investment, their star player this go round. And that's the right way to do it. I've trusted the way they've handled their injuries over the past few years. You know, they've seemed to have had a clear plan in place, a plan of how they're going to put something on the field, put a person on the field for practice reps, and get them back into the flow of things. And frankly, if you look at the matchup coming up Sunday, you would think that maybe you don't need Jayden Daniels to get out there. I've seen folks, put out there many reasons as to why you would consider sitting him down. And I think the longevity portion of it is the biggest thing to consider. It's a long season. Right? We need him to be ready in December when we're seeing the Eagles, when we're seeing the Cowboys on Christmas Day. Those are the type of matchups, Nick, where we need Jayden Daniels being his best. And I'm loving the fact that they're going to be slow and cautious with this. A guy uses his legs to get around. That's one of his superpowers. That's one of his biggest weapons. And now with that knee sprain, he's kind of a lame duck. All right, I don't need him hobbling around in the backfield when a defense that's trying to get back on the right track. Don't want to have him being back there be a lame duck, Nick.
Yeah, I'm looking at John in the chat talking about Jayden Daniels resting, keeping him out against the Raiders game. Don't need an RG3 repeat. I mean, listen, I said, like we said it, like there are scars. This fan base, we've dealt with it. I mean, I can remember certainly 2012, and everybody can. And again, like there's a million different situations with this, but it's tough because you obviously look at what this team's coming off of. You got that loss to the Packers in front of everybody. And of course, what did you and I talk about after the game? And what did we talk about leading up to that game? It was all about regression. And are other people going to sit there? Again, I know the team doesn't care what's necessarily said outside, but the talk of regression is now starting to get just a little bit louder. There's CJ Stroud and Texans year 2 comparisons and all these things. And again, we're going with what we got. And this is how everybody overreacts. It's the NFL. We've all been here before. But, it is something to think about in terms of the emotion of wanting to right the ship against the Raiders, against the very vulnerable Raiders team that did not look very good in week 2, to say the least. There's the temptation, but then at the same time, let's remember, Marcus Mariota is one of the best backups in the NFL, and that's what makes the backup quarterback in the NFL so important. Because, yeah, you might go, hey, it's one of the easiest jobs in the world, right? Sit back, chilling on the sidelines, you're not taking hits, and then all of a sudden, though, boom, you're needed, and you got to be out there. But we've seen what Marcus Mariota can do in this offense, including against the Cowboys last year in that game-winning drive.
Mariota he gives you that peace of mind. I've said that twice in one show, which is I'm overusing it so far, but I love having him back there because you've seen him be successful. And the biggest thing for me, Nick, is it's a fresh set of eyes. Okay, it's a fresh set of eyes, and what that means is that he is seeing things that Jayden isn't seeing. Some of the tape that I've watched from Jayden against Green Bay and Week 1 against New York, he was missing some throws. There were points where Terry McLaurin was open. There were some points where he could get the ball into the middle zone, maybe over a linebacker in front of a safety to Noah Brown or Deebo Samuel, but he just hadn't made those throws yet. Now, is that him being cautious and saying, I don't want to risk an interception, I don't want to have a turnover? Maybe so. But at one point, you're going to have to let one of those things loose. Now, if Marcus Mariota starts the game and he plays, he can make some of those throws and put some stuff on tape that Jayden can go back and say, oh, okay, this read is here on that play. That read is there on that play. And having that veteran presence and showing the young fella how to operate some of these plays based on what the defense is giving them will be really big. I'm confident with Mariota getting out there if you need to, because it's going to give that defense a different look, and it's going to almost force Cliff Kingsbury to do something different with the offense. I'm calling for them to do something different. I need them to come out with some excitement, with some pizzazz, like over my shoulder. This is where there it is. 08 Dolphins. Right? That was the Wildcat year. Okay, that was the Wildcat year.
Ooh.
1-2, and then boom, the Wildcat came out. They went on a run, found their way into the playoffs. Now, are the Commanders that type of a hole? No, not necessarily, but I do think they need that type of spark, that type of firepower on offense to get the ball rolling against this lowly Raiders team.
Let me tell you something. The Wildcat is one of my favorite eras of the NFL. Watching that, and when the Dolphins were able to bring that in, and then, of course, right, it's a copycat league, and everybody else goes and tries. But, it's the tush push now. Everybody wants to copy some of these things, but it's very hard to replicate the original offense or the original creativity that somebody's had. You're making me just think of the Wildcat as we go forward with this. But, yeah, it's listen, the first 2 weeks, and we've had those concerns about the offense and just the way that they lacked any sort of, sync and any sort of chemistry. And that's going to take time to build up. But like the clock is ticking. And if Jayden Daniels misses a week, maybe it's 2 weeks. I mean, if you're being cautious, we could be talking about a couple of weeks. They've only got 2 more games at 1:00 Eastern, by the way, until it's almost 2 months, I think, of games being, whether it's the late window or it's a Sunday night or a Monday night or whatever the case is. So it's going to be very different moving forward for them after that. But yeah, I would rather see this team be cautious. I just would. I would rather see. There's a reason why you have Marcus Mariota. There's a reason why you have a veteran and somebody that, won a Heisman Trophy that we know can fill in this offense. You have it so you don't have to force a quarterback out there and worry about long-term issues, worry about something that could progress, something that could get worse. It's not needed. And quite frankly, nobody in that building should care about the conversation of aggression. Like, you and I can talk about it. Anybody else, David can talk. We all can talk about it. They can't let that influence the decisions that they're going to make, because in reality, even if this team wins 9 or 10 games this year and it's like, oh God, well, they weren't as good as they were last year, Anthony. Well, okay. The schedule is tougher and they're dealing with all kinds of things that are maybe different than last year. The focus has to also still be long-term. And it's tough because, coming into this year, had they won 6 games or 7 games last year, the thought would still be about rebuilding. They had this win now mentality because of the 12 wins last year and the Super Bowl expectations, whether you want to look at odds or not. And then there's also the fact that this team really was still looking to rebuild this thing. So it's like they're kind of got their feet in 2 rooms at the same time. And It's a tough thing to balance. This is where the balance now needs to be long-term and not short-term, and completely forget about forcing Jayden Daniels or anybody else that's out there. The hope is, though, that with Mariota, if he is the quarterback, depending on what we see from Jayden Daniels on Friday, and if I was a betting man, and I am, it's the Jayden sits out on Sunday, there is at least hopefully an opportunity to get, like you said, some of these other people involved. I'd love to see more Terry McLaurin. Let's be honest with ourselves here. He's on pace for less than 700 yards receiving. I don't think that's going to last. We knew a slow start was possible here right now, but this is an opportunity to kind of shake things up with that offense and just find ways to get other people involved, knowing you're missing some of that weapon in Jayden Daniels, even though Mariota can use his legs when he needs to too.
You need to unlock it, unleash the beast, if you will, man. Let everything unflourish. Because right now what I'm seeing is that you're just trying to surgically, dissect the defense and just run your base offense. That ain't going to fly right now. right? That ain't going to fly. These teams know what you do, and they're going to cover those concepts. So that's why you need to show up with an uppercut, show up with a haymaker, with a right hook. You know what I mean, Gerald? Come out here with something new, put some wrinkles out there that's going to get this place electrified. I remember last year, it was a game against the Panthers, right? The team was kind of, bumbling back and forth, wasn't really sure what we were going to get. And when you came against that game there, Dante Fowler had the big sack or the interception, and he's running down the side. Like, that was the type of energy. They jumped on that team. They need to do that this Sunday. If it's defense, offense, I think offense needs to bring some firepower. But one area that I think is kickoff and special teams. I've seen some stuff out there, especially how the Patriots operated and was able to have some pretty big returns. Antonio Gibson, former Washington player of many, many different logos, right? They had some success there, right? So with your star quarterback down, and you can't just say, hey, just give it to 5 and let him handle it. Everybody has to come to the party. I need special teams to the party. I need defense to the party. Preston Smith, we're going to talk about him. He needs to show up and not try to blow everybody away, but he needs to show up and make some contribution, and special teams is going to be a big one for me. So whoever's returning kicks, look for them to do something to create a spark, help with the field position, which will help with the offense getting the ball rolling as well. See how it all ties together, Nick? See how this works?
It's synergy, right? We'll use management words. Synergy, Anthony. We're using those. We haven't even looked at the run game yet. And when you look at with the tape you've obviously seen and the games we've watched and everything that's there, it doesn't take much effort to see what they did trying to run the football against the Packers and the lack thereof that was there. But if Marcus Mariota is the starting quarterback, you obviously have a veteran that's seen a lot of NFL starts over the years, even through the years when you thought he was going to be a franchise quarterback with the Titans and he won, whatever the case is. But you do still have this run game to worry about too. And with Jayden Daniels and the threat of his legs, let's say hypothetically not out there at this time right now on a Wednesday as we tape this and go live, we don't know what his status is. But if that's the case, do you think we see more of like a Chris Rodriguez kind of thrown into the mold here now? Like, what does this run game maybe look like, just given the fact that they've had all the issues and now Austin Eckler, if you want to talk about injuries, like this team, like a lot of the NFL, absolutely decimated by injuries already. No Austin Eckler for the rest of the season with the torn Achilles. So now they've also got to figure out what that run game looks like too.
I think you got to bring all hands on deck, everybody to the party. If you played running back in Pee Wee League, please line up over here. We need to figure out who can carry the rock. That includes a little bit of Deebo Samuel. I think he's going to get a couple of carries in there. Yes, Chris Rodriguez has to get some carries. I think you have to set the tone physically, right? Get behind your pads. Let your young linemen play behind your pad, but play behind their pads. I'm talking Connerly. I'm talking Coleman. You got a message from David Harrison. He said Coleman's in a non-contact jersey today. So I want him to play behind his pads as a good left guard, right? Give them confidence going up against that Raiders defense to say, hey, look, we're just going to run the ball for a little bit. I still think you can see some zone read. Marcus Mariota has that ability, and he has it in his bag. Sure, it's not going to be the whole game plan like Georgia Tech or anything, but I think you have to mix that in there. Then on the flip side, I think that the defense going against Mariota may want to be more aggressive and try to force his hand one way or the other, and it's going to be forcing him to throw the rock. But I like the matchups on the outside. I think Terry going against the Darnay Holmes and Deebo going against his matchup should be successful. Right? They're going to try to force Washington to do one thing and one thing only, but you can't let them force you to just pass the ball 45 times. I think be consistent with running the ball, right? Get behind your pads, run the rock, put yourself in safe, down in distances where you can unlock some play action passing, right? Unlock some different play calls, get into a different rhythm than we have been in recent weeks. And that's going to help this offense roll, I think.
All right. The clear opinion in the comments from just about everybody is take your time, be cautious with Jayden Daniels. And I think that's the right approach across the board because you don't want a sprained knee turning into something far, far worse, something we don't even want to mention. All right. David Harrison's going to join us in a little bit from Ashburn, Nick Ashooh, Anthony Armstrong. We've got the return of a familiar face. And speaking of injuries, it is a much, much needed position help that the Commanders can certainly bring to the table. We'll talk about that next on Commanders Squad. course, you know the NFL season's here. FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if you bet your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, and that's the beauty of it. Talked about a couple of bets I liked. We're too early this week for props to show up. We probably will see some more Zach Ertz, so when that does show up, head on over to FanDuel and maybe check out what his receptions are again. I think it's probably going to be set at about 3.5. Good one to jump. I will say this. Already bet the Bengals money line, by the way. Love Jake Browning as the starting quarterback. They've got a great number over there at FanDuel, so make sure you check that out. I would tail me on that. I'll feel very good. And, of course, if it loses, you can blame me and yell at me in the comments. It's totally fine. Are you ready to play, though? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And, of course, Anthony, when I look at what the Commanders did over the last day, we talk about thinking about the past, and we talk about the way things have gone in earlier eras of this team. And then I wake up this morning. Well, I was already awake, but I get the alert. Preston Smith re-signed by the Commanders. Listen, Dietrich Wise gone for the season. It's a massive loss for them. We talked about Austin Eckler. There's a lot of injuries surrounding this team. Jonathan Jones, another injury. There's a lot that they're dealing with, and it's not just them. It's the rest of the NFL. But adding Preston Smith, the one thing I think anybody can agree on, you can't have enough pass rushers in the NFL, but when you're also losing somebody along the defensive line, the versatility that a big Preston Smith brings to the table here and where he can line up and how he can get after the quarterback and 24.5 sacks in his much younger days in Washington. This is somebody that was, I think, one of the best defensive signings in terms of guys that were out there and available right now that they could have brought in. And it's kind of like, listen, nostalgia is a drug, but sometimes you see it and go, oh, yeah, Preston Smith. He was good with the Packers. We missed him when he was gone. So it's nice to kind of see that addition and bring him back a little bit and see a familiar face.
It used to be a thing to where when players would leave Washington, we'd be like, man, he about to go ball wherever he goes. and Preston Smith kind of did that, right? He went and made some plays up there in Green Bay, and he's wanting to come back. So number one, hey, whenever somebody wants to come home, you kind of welcome them into the fold. I went and looked at, the guy's size, 6'5", 265. So he fits the bill with what they want on defensive line and what they have had. So, he's going to bring some veteran leadership. He's going to bring, familiarity with the team and the organization. And ideally he brings a little bit of production, I saw a tweet on there. Jamal was talking about, hey, look, man, just set the edge and maybe you get 3 or 4 sacks on the year and that'd be perfect. Right. We're not looking for this guy to go run off 15 sacks in this last part of the year. But if he does, I'm not going to complain. All right. I am not going to complain. But he's coming in to just build on what we had with Dietrich Wise and kind of continue what he was doing. Because the smaller DNs that came in there, it gives you too much of a soft edge to run on. And I don't think you want that. I saw one rep of Ashton Jeanty after it was in between interceptions from Geno. But Jeanty got over there and he got a safety one-on-one in the hole and dropped a shoulder on him. Okay, so I don't want this young guy to get going this week, Nick. I want him to feel the pressure of the NFL. It kind of was too fast for him on Monday night. I want him to keep that same pressure this upcoming Sunday.
I'm looking too from David. He just texted us. No Wagner, Luvu, Ertz, or Tunsil at practice either, but looks like mostly probably rest days. So when we have him on there, we'll find out whether those are like bigger issues or certainly smaller issues here. Listen, Commanders certainly, this defense was something I've really targeted at and looked and said, like, they're going to have to help pick up some of the slack for the offense over the first couple of weeks of the season. And now if you don't have Jayden Daniels, I think it's that much more important for them to be able to do that. I'm gonna ask you, I don't know if you have an answer to this question, but it's something that I've had conversations with former players over the years in my career, and they come from different eras. So there may be a very different, old heads can get a little bit more grumpy when it comes to like how things are handled now.
Definition of old now.
What's that? Oh no, not you. Let's talk. Okay. Let's talk like 80s and before. Okay. So we'll go that way. Come on, dude. You're still young. Come on now. Don't even do that to yourself. All right. You and I are a similar age, I think. So we're good. But one of the things I can remember, I've had this conversation. It's been brought up multiple times to me. And this goes back to like prime two-a-days era when, guys were out there and it was like, don't drink water and be tough. And, it was a different world. Do you think that the lack of training camp, the lack of physical contact before the season, and the lack of preseason now in terms of involvement for players, Do you think that that's affecting just players' ability to withstand the physical nature of the NFL early on? Or is that kind of one of those theories that we can't really prove at all? Because that's a theory that I've had brought up by a lot of, I mean, again, these are players who I certainly respect, have had great careers. And that's been a very common theme of if you're not hitting enough in the preseason and your body's not building up those calluses, that guys then aren't ready for the regular season. The problem with some of that is like non-contact injuries, you can't really do much about with it. So I don't really know what to make of that because I'm certainly not a doctor, so I can't really break all those injuries down. But like when you see a lot of these injuries early on, is that something that like you buy into at all? What's your theory on that?
That's a great question. And I am not a doctor, but I am a personal trainer. I've been a trainer for 9 years now. And one thing that I learned about, especially with like plyometrics, and I see all of these Achilles injuries, is that I think about how you are training. It's more than just calf raises, right? It's like mini hops and like bounces, and plyometric moves help build up the tendons and the muscles and the reactivity to be able to accept that force and redirect that force. Now, where does this come into play? When you're in the game, things are happening so fast. The adrenaline is pumping. Everything that's happening from the defensive or the offensive side is unpredictable, right? You may know what they're going to do by scheme, but hey, he may jump this way and you just have to react to it. In practice, when you're going slower speeds, you're not going as fast, you're not hitting as much, you don't have that random reactivity. So yes, I agree with you, Nick, in the fact that you need to be able to play more football. You need to be able to play football at fast speeds, at high speeds. Catching the ball and then thudding up, that doesn't really do it. You kind of got to let them go to the ground a little bit. That way you get used to that contact. I'm going to go back to the young fella, Ginty. I'm looking at the tape. He looking lost in the backfield on pass protection. This defensive lineman is getting double teamed and then runs into him and pushes him across the field. He's not used to the physicality and the physical nature that actually comes with the league. Even looking at the special teams reps, the Raiders don't look like they're ready for that speed and the physicality that comes with going through the practices. So yeah, man, if you go back to getting more contact and yes, just hitting more contact in the off season, those things can help put some of these injuries off because it's too much of a walkthrough. Like, oh, let's just walk through it and go through and we'll just visualize. Where that is important, you usually do that when the bodies are worn down. You don't do that to save the body for practice. They always say you play like you practice. And if you're practicing slow walkthroughs, you're going to show up and look slow on the game. So yeah, you need to get out there and play more football, get a little bit more old school, and let these guys actually play the sport that they grew up loving.
The issue, though, is that you and I both know the NFL is never going to allow for more physical contact, more hitting in the preseason because they don't want any lawsuits. Like, let's be real here. A lot of this just comes down to big lawsuit, concussions, and the various things the NFL has gone through in the past. So they're going to make it. And I'm not even one of those ones that's like, let's just throw flags on them and just make it flag football. Though a theory I probably haven't talked about on this show yet, but I have talked about plenty on other shows. Robot football, I think, is coming. The way that these robots are jumping around and running around, some billionaire is going to be like, you know what, I'm going to compete with the NFL with robot football, and it's going to happen. It's going to be ugly, but they're going to be some big hits, and we're not going to be able to do anything about it. But like, given where the NFL is now, they're talking about an 18th game. It feels inevitable to me. Maybe it's going to be more of a battle, and I'm not giving the players and the players union enough credit. But like, we're looking at all these guys getting hurt now. We're looking at a lack of preparation physically for the season. And then, Anthony, they're talking about an 18th game. Like, how is that going to give us better football? I would much rather have expanded playoffs, at least, than an extra regular season game. I understand where the money is and everybody gets an extra regular season. Like, I understand all of the economics behind it. But from an actual quality football standpoint, it's not doing the players any justice. It's not doing the fans any justice. It's doing nobody any favors by adding more games late in the season when guys are already banged up. They're getting banged up to start the season. And it's like, I mean, look around the league now. Let's move on even just past Jayden Daniels. You look at what the Bengals have to go through again. You got Joe Burrow's all going to miss 3 months. Like, this is, and again, we could go down the long list of injuries that are there, but the reality is the NFL has not helped their players when it comes to player safety and being prepared. Football has injuries. It's part of it. I understand that. But we've gotten to the point now where it just feels like every move that the NFL has made to try and protect their players has really just been counterintuitive, and instead it's just made everything worse.
Man, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And it cuts both ways. I'm sitting here asking for more football, but you have to. You didn't have to, in turn, add another bye week, right? You have to add another bye week. Even the talks about adding a team to play in Europe permanently, like logistically, no, right? You can't logistically ask that team to fly. Like they'd have to be there half the season. They'd have to host like all their game. Like it doesn't make sense. You have to have an extra set of players available that you can send over there. Like, do they get an expanded roster? There's so many things that are so many variables that are out there. The expanded practice squad is helpful, right? Being able to have veterans out there on that practice squad is helpful. But still, the injuries, it almost makes it, I won't say it's not worth it, right? But when you're having pretty catastrophic injuries, more season-ending injuries than I feel like we've had in recent history, it seems like everything's a season-ending injury nowadays. Yeah, you're gonna have to you need to let them play more football, practice-wise, to get acclimated to it. But then I think you need the Thursday game is getting a little bit too close. You know, you're not getting that chance to really recover. Your body's not getting a chance to recover. They're gonna have to come up with something with that. But it's interesting. They can call us. We could definitely go in there and talk with them about it and see what we can figure out.
I think you and I will make our pitch. We'll do everything we can to try. Listen, I just want better football. I think everybody benefits from better football. I don't need more games. I want quality football. I also want starting quarterbacks to be healthy and as many stars. It just anybody, guys that are valuable to teams, you need them out there. And it just feels like, again, I know there's no perfect solution. I know everybody's human and I know injuries happen, but it's just starting to feel like early in the season, it's getting worse and worse where these things are mounting and guys just aren't ready. All right, David Harrison's going to join us in a second. He's live out in Ashburn. We'll get his report on what happened at practice, what's going on with Jayden Daniels, what to expect this weekend against the Raiders. All of that coming up next year on Commander Squad. And Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game. It's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep the game moving forward. The Commanders are trying to move forward after that loss to the Packers on Thursday Night Football. I think one of the keys here for them, and one of the keys is that they've got an extra time to get guys a little bit more recovered, watch a little bit more film. But as we know, Jayden Daniels is the motor, see what I did there, that keeps this offense and keeps this team moving. So if he's not out there and he's not ready to go, Marcus Mariota jumps in and we'll do a quick engine swap. Just like maybe you could do that with a Mazda. That could be the case. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to Mazda and a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, we bring on our buddy Dave Harrison now, and I will leave the floor to you, my friend, and feel free to yeah. There's a cough there. We got you, buddy. First off, I love it when you do this the show from with practice field. Nice backdrop. Things look good. Very set. I know the weather is it's a bit wet. It's a bit sloppy right now. But let's start with Jayden Daniels. Anthony and I have certainly had plenty to say about what's going on. You were out there at practice. We know what Dan Quinn had to say about Jayden Daniels, and they're being very cautious with it. Give us more of what you've heard and what the conversation is about his status this weekend against the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, just what you're hearing is a lot of kind of trepidation right now. I get the vibe. I don't know that I would expect Jayden to play this weekend. Now, I say that, and Locked On Commanders every dayers will remember from last year. I also said the same thing before the Bears game, and end up being completely wrong. But I think that there is a difference between a rib injury and a knee injury. You know what I mean? And DQ did say like he needs to see Jayden at practice this week, to feel confident putting him out there. And I think that's the best way to go about it. And with a knee injury, like if he can't practice all the way through Friday, I just don't see how you roll him out there in week 3 and risk, the next 15 weeks, the next year or so of having Jayden Daniels on the field. It's not worth it. Obviously you're going to have confidence in your team that they can beat the Raiders without him. But even if you don't, even if you think, which this is not the mindset inside the building, obviously, but even if you were to think without Jayden, we're toast, we're going to go 1-2 and there's just no hope on Sunday, you still got to sit him, right? Because you need hope next Sunday and the following Sunday and so on and so forth.
Anthony, you jump in there, man. Oh, your mic's. I knew it. He muted. You muted.
Dang it.
Yes. It's once a show. His mic is muted. It is a guarantee.
Dang. I had the mic muted because David was doing his monologue, and then I'm reading the comments over there. Man, they giving Lattimore and DB's hell. Since the comments are there about it, what has the conversation been, if anything, about the DB production and kind of what they plan to do to get back on track against Las Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, nobody's happy about the lack of takeaways, you know what I mean? And certainly the mental mistakes, the lack of communication, or I wouldn't even put it as a lack of communication, because there's a lot of times when you turn on that tape that you see the communication happening, right? You see the guy making the call to push, to bump, whatever, language they use here with the Commanders defense. And then for one reason or another, right? They're not going to tell us why, but they're going to have to answer to their coaches and their teammates. Somebody doesn't follow the assignment. You know what I mean? Somebody doesn't shift their zone to the right direction, or shift their coverage to the right direction, or whatever it is, and it leads to a big gain, or it leads to a blowed coverage. I think with Marshawn, like, it's hard because, like, Anthony, this, man, like, there are guys in the locker room that are leaders, they're team guys. Some of them are rah-rah, some of them are quiet. And then there's just dudes there that are not that guy. They're just there to play ball. They're just there to do what they do. And they're going to be who they are. Marshawn has never really been the leadership type, right? Like, Marshawn's not really the follow me, I'll lead the way. He's a dog. He's like, I'm going to fight every snap. I'm going to fight through the whistle. I'm going to fight after the whistle. When you're defensively as a unit not getting takeaways, and then you're getting beat on Thursday night for big plays, down the field, things like that, and one of your most veteran, if not your most veteran players, also drawing unnecessary flags at times, it just kind of paints a different picture, right? Look, if your defense is balling out, you're getting picks, and you're stopping guys, and you're holding them under 14 points and all this stuff, and you get an after the whistle penalty here and there, people rally around it. Saints fans loved Marshawn because they were okay with the 15-yarder every once in a while after a play, because the Saints were winning, right? It changes a lot of things, and the defense was helping out in those wins. So I think with Marshawn, like, you want to kind of talk to him, but hey, dude, like, maybe kind of back down in some of those, after the whistle activities, until we get things rolling in the right direction. But, like, Marshawn's always going to be Marshawn, so it's kind of a it's kind of a no-win situation there. You just gotta deal with it. But I think this is an opportunity with Geno Smith that they can get some takeaways in this game.
It's funny, David, when you talk about sort of the 15-yard penalties and what Marshawn Lattimore's been known for. It works across the board, right? Like, guys can get away with a little bit more if they're doing something well on the field, whatever the case is. I got a prediction for you guys, and this may seem crazy at the moment, but with all of the narrative, all the conversation about Marshawn Lattimore, I watched a lot of interceptions from Geno Smith. I think we get a revenge game from Marshawn Lattimore. I think we get Marshawn Lattimore, Anthony, throwing in with at least an interception in this game, taking advantage of Geno Smith. This defense, with Jayden Daniels potentially not playing, I think, Anthony, this is a chance here for them to really make a name for themselves. Doesn't sound right, but I think really stand out and take control of this game, knowing that the offense is going to be down some names.
You got to get back on the right track. And when you're looking at a performance with 3 interceptions over there, a rookie running back there looks a little confused in pass protection, you got to get that much more aggressive on defense, that much more hungry, and start salivating a little bit, thinking, hey, we got something out here that maybe we can jump on and take advantage of it, and really get the ball rolling, set the offense up nice and easy, field position games and takeaways, and just one of those energetic games where we can turn it off in the third quarter thinking everything's okay. You know what I mean? You want to watch it with a little bit of calm and not have to stress so much towards the end. So looking at what that team has outside of Brock Bowers, you don't think there's a lot of firepower out there, at least receiver wise. You don't want Jinky to get rolling, and Brock Bowers has an injured knee. So how can you be aggressive on defense? How can you take advantage safety wise? Will Harris, Quan Martin, what are they going to do? Bobby Wagner, you got coverage all the way around. I want to know, like, how do you bounce back, right? I feel like every year it's like a boxing match. You win a game, ugly against New York. You come back and get beat ugly against Green Bay. We got to figure out what team is the real Commanders, right? Which one is real, or is it somewhere in between? And these injuries are going to make it a little bit more difficult. David, here's a question out here. How will we succeed in the deep passing game minus the checkdowns? I like that. I'm wanting this team to go deep more often, be much more aggressive. What are you thinking, and what are you seeing from the coaching staff today?
I think the key there, like I was talking with another reporter about this, like how much, in the immediate aftermath of Thursday night, I think pretty much all of us are like, man, Joe Witt didn't adjust enough to these tight ends. Cliff Kingsbury didn't adjust enough from this, vanilla conservative play call or game plan into the game. But then as you watch more tape, as you get more information, as you look back on it, you kind of start to, see things a little bit differently sometimes. I'm a little bit less on the Joe Witt beat. Like I look at a lot of these plays and I think that if the defenders run what Joe Witt called, it's a successful play. I'm still a little bit on the Cliff Kingsbury beat, though, to be honest with you. I still think Cliff, like his game plan was just too conservative. It was too passive, and you didn't ramp it up enough. It felt to me like they wanted to go deep. Cliff wants to go deep, right? Like he comes from the church of the air raid, right? He wants to go deep, but it felt like for him, we have to get that intermediate passing game going. We have to get that short passing game going as a benchmark before I go to the passing game. And sometimes, man, like just because you can't take over the guard shack doesn't mean you can't storm the castle. Like just because they're stopping your intermediate passing game doesn't mean you don't take those shots because that's going to help spread them out. You got to keep them honest. You got to do all those things. Now, the part where I think Cliff would defend himself is like, okay, but my quarterback is getting hit and my quarterback is getting pressured on the intermediate stuff before we can get that out. How do you expect me to let these long developing routes go? Something that I saw that I wouldn't say was like a down to down thing, but that I would really love to see different this weekend is it seemed like on a lot of these route combinations when there were deep routes, the deep routes were, free releases, at least designed to be free releases, right? But your shorter routes, your outlets, so to speak, were chip blocked a lot. And you guys know when you chip block, it delays your release. So now your short routes are taking almost as long as your intermediate deep routes to get open as your intermediate deep routes. And I can't tell you like, well, let's run a chip with a slot fade like that, that's gonna take 10 seconds to get that receiver downfield. So I don't know what the perfect answer is, but like when you have all of these routes taking the same amount of time to get open, it doesn't give Jayden a lot of options. You got to find a way to fix it. Truthfully, guys, with John Bates not available potentially this week, I should say potentially. I'll tell you right now, none of us are expecting John Bates to play.
Yeah.
I think you go eligible lineman, right? I think you bring Andrew Wiley out there as an eligible lineman, put him outside of Josh Connerly, make him kind of the de facto, cap to that line there. And you run edge runs, right? The Raiders, one of their weaknesses is edge rush defense right now in these first two games. And it gives you a little bit more time to protect Jayden or to protect Marcus probably, to find routes downfield. Obviously the Raiders know Andrew Wiley is not going to beat them, consistently anyway on pass routes. Not that they wouldn't put him out there, but I think that you're okay giving up that little bit of strategy to give your quarterback and your receivers time to find open space.
You telling me Andrew Wiley don't got no routes in his bag?
Hey, listen, he's ran routes before, so that's why I said like consistently because don't put it against the Commanders and Cliff Kingsbury to throw 71 out there in a route.
I mean, listen, they got to get creative somehow, right? I think the first 2 weeks we've looked around going, you got to jumpstart this thing somehow. Not to mention no Austin Eckler. We haven't even, Anthony and I talked about this a little before you jumped on, David, but listen, you lose somebody that was a valuable piece to this offense, somebody that you could hit in the underneath, quick little dump offs. He was one of the safety nets for Jayden Daniels with him not out there anymore. This run game already had its question marks. You didn't see Chris Rodriguez the first two games. I'm going to assume, and you'd know more than me being out there, like, Chris Rodriguez likely active and getting some opportunities here. His run game's already struggled. Like the Bengals preseason game was fun. We got all excited. But the reality is that's not the regular season. So does this run game now start to find new ways to work some other guys in? Does Chris Rodriguez get more opportunities? That's one of the things that I'm certainly looking at too. I know the focus a lot is going to be on, rightfully so, Jayden Daniels, but there's also still the ability to you lose Jayden Daniels, likely his running ability, though Marcus Mariota certainly still he's effective with his legs. It's not the same necessarily. Then you're adding these running, the running back questions on top of it. That's another big concern heading into the Raiders game for me.
Yeah, you think that, if there's a silver lining here, if it does go Marcus, or even if it goes Jayden, like even if Jayden's out there, make no mistake about it, like this isn't a scenario where Jayden's cleared to play Sunday, they let him play, he's 100%. Like that's not going to be a thing, right? So even if it's Jayden out there, it's not going to be the same Jayden that you've seen the rest of his career. So I think no matter what, you're going to go less read option, no matter who the quarterback is. And to a certain extent, that could be a little bit of a silver lining, right? Because read option plays for those linemen up front, like they've got to make their initial blocks, and then it's about reading the defense. Where's the defense going? Because if the defense is going left, that means the back got it. If the defense is going right, that means Jayden kept it. Now we have to react. Now my blocking assignment changes based on where we're going with the ball, and I'm only going to know that when the defense shows me where that's going. But non-read option plays, right? Your standard run plays, I know where I got to go. Like if I'm Tyler Biadasz, I know I got to knock this right side D tackle off his block, pass him off to Brandon Coleman. Then I'm getting up, I'm looking for the mic, and I'm going to try to clean his clock, right? Like it gives the offensive lineman just a little bit more clarity. And in some ways, at least as long as it's for a short period of time, right? Like I'm not trying to say like for like the entirety of the season, this could be a silver lining, no, but for like against the Raiders, it could allow this offensive line to get off more aggressive in their run blocks and get downfield, get to that second level, maybe clear some things out for a guy who has incredible vision, ability to adjust and to cut through those gaps, like Bill, and then Chris Rodriguez Jr. Like, all right, maybe we get a safety, 5 yards past the C gap. Well, Chris Rodriguez he's gonna punish that safety. Like you're gonna be there, you're gonna make your money, you know what I mean? But you're gonna feel it. And those are types of things that can give this team a little bit of momentum in a 1 week period.
You need to find
Yeah.
something short week, right? You need to find something to bounce off a loss and get back going against the Raiders. Nick, you had a question?
No, I think more for me, it's just like looking at the rest because you texted us before you jumped on here, David, and I'm looking at like no Wagner today, Luvu, Ertz, Tunsil. I mean, they're veterans. I'm going to assume that those are more rest days. Do we know? Like,
Yes.
are there any other
That's the
injuries that we
assumption.
should be concerned? Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Even Trey Amos and Brandon Coleman were in non-contact jerseys. You said too.
Yeah, they were. The good news, they're still going through drills, and like Coleman specifically was still hitting pads. So you love to see that. You know what I mean? But yeah, we don't have final status on any of those guys. I mean, the assumption is those other guys are vet rest days. Lord help us if they're not. but the assumption is that they're vet rest days. Yeah.
The injuries piling up again. When with you jumping on later, I want to make sure that you get involved in some of the things that we said before here because it just feels like early on in the NFL season over the last, maybe it's only the last few years, maybe it's longer. I know a lot of this is based on perspective, but just feels like we've had so many major injuries so early on. I mean, Anthony and I talked about this before. There's different theories as to whether or not guys are physically prepared for the season with the lack of physical contact in the preseason and, dealing with, all these restrictions and practices and all that. Like, is that a discussion at all around the NFL? Because I've certainly had former players tell me that they see it that way is like, hey, and again, some of it is like, they don't do it the way we used to do it. We all fall into that trap at some point, but like, it does feel like there's a common trend here. I mean, I know we've listed all these injuries, and I know it's the NFL, but you look around the rest of the league, the 49ers are decimated. The Bengals don't have their starting quarterback. We'll see Brock Bowers, you mentioned, dealing with a knee injury on top of that. Like, there are guys that are hurt around the NFL, very key players, where it just feels like it's more than just like standard early season injuries in the NFL.
Yeah, I think somebody in the NFLPA, because I think you just hit the head, you hit the nail around the head. And I'll tell you, I don't know if the conversation is happening around the league right now, but it's happening for me. I've talked about it in Locked On NFL. We're now talking about it here. I've talked about it in Locked On Commanders, and I'm going to talk to some guys in the locker room today about that very topic because, and far be it from me, like I would never, just want to be clear, especially with Anthony on here, I would never call the players in general stupid. But I do remember Tom Brady saying, we as players are stupid because when the last CBA came out, he said, we're concerned with single digit numbers and can we wear zero and can we have more THC in our blood tests and all this other stuff. We need to be worried about more important things. And I think this is the kind of thing that Tom Brady was talking about when he said that, just to be clear. Because I think it needs to be discussed, right? Like I think just from like I come from it, not from that aspect, right? But I come from it from a player concern aspect because I see the work that these guys put in. I know the strain that they go through, the stress that they go through, and to see it get lost in such a simplistic way, your heart goes out to them, And I think what you have to do is separate the fluke injuries, like Dietrich, like how many times have you seen a lineman get through, a block in a field goal formation and everything is fine, he just walks off the field. That play, a guy just happened to get rolled back on top of him, and it happens. You know what I mean? But like Austin Eckler out there with a non-contact injury, trying to crawl off the field with a ruptured Achilles or a torn Achilles, like those are the types of things where you look at this, you're like, man, like if this isn't Thursday night, if training camp is maybe a little bit more intensive toward getting players actually conditioned to play this game at a full rate. I mean, these guys, they took more reps. The starters especially took more reps in week 1 and week 2 combined than they took all of training camp. And they did it in the span of 5 days. That's insanity to me. Like that's insanity to me. And I think that there needs to be a conversation around the league about it because I think it's setting players up for failure. And I think it's leading to a lot of these injuries. I mean, we got John Bates with a soft tissue issue, Jonathan Jones with a soft tissue issue that's now put him on IR. He's going to miss a chunk of the season. I mean, just Noah Brown. I know Noah has kind of a history with it anyway, but still, like you have Noah Brown with the soft tissue issue. Like the fluke injuries, the turf toe that needs surgery when no other turf toe needs surgery, the lineman falling on the back of your legs, okay, got it. But these soft tissue injuries, man, I'm talking to friends of mine on the beat that cover the Buccaneers, and they're talking about how their offensive line is just absolutely, you use the word decimated. That's what they're talking about, decimated. Their offensive line is decimated. We got a guy here on the beat now who came from Vegas, and they're talking about the same type of concerns. Like, and it seems like every year we talk about this, and then, oh, by the way, on the horizon, the owners won an 18th game. Like, what are we actually doing out here to protect the product? And I think that part of the answer has to be players got to be honest and realize like we're not doing enough during training camp. Like everybody loves hearing you're going to do less work during this really uncomfortable period of your job. Everybody loves hearing that, but you also have to understand what the truth is, and is it actually protecting you? Is it actually helping you in the long term? And if it's not, let's be real and let's actually give a little bit more work back to that process. The Thursday night game's got to go away. Like if I'm in the NFLPA, Anthony, like I'm standing on every table being like, we cannot be playing Thursday night football. I don't understand. Doubleheader Sunday night, doubleheader Monday night. You're going to make that money back hand over fist. No
Yes.
issues. We do not need to be playing NFL games on Thursday nights. I go back to Richard Sherman when he was with the Seahawks, talked about he knew going into a Thursday night game. He was like all through practice, he's like, I feel my Achilles pulling. I feel my Achilles catching. I'm going to tear my Achilles in this game. And sure enough, it was like third quarter, tears his Achilles out for the season. And he knew it was coming. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane to me. And I think that's what Tom was talking about. You know what I mean? Like these guys need to stand up on the table and say, like, you want your 18th game. We need 2 bye weeks. We need to get rid of Thursday night football. You'll make plenty of money. Don't worry about it. And do things that are actually better for the players instead of jersey numbers and THC levels.
I mean, let's be real. Of all the professional sports, the NFL is the one that has the least player-friendly situation going on. There's a whole report going on about the blocking of guaranteed money and things of that nature. So, if you want the 18th game, guarantee some of this money, right? Guarantee some of those contracts, and I think that could be the least that you can do, especially with how you see players are leaving the game with catastrophic injuries. Because the fact of it is that I always hate the fact that when they have Black Monday, when the coaches get fired, and they're like, all the staffs and everybody's leaving, and that is sad. You got to pull your kids out of school, but then the training camp, it goes from 90 or 75 to 53. And some of those kids never get to play the game again, and they never get to have that conversation. They don't know what happened. It may have been fair or not. Some of it could be an injury, and they get an injury settlement, then they're just sent out into the wild. That is a savage ass game. And you don't have any protection for the players for that. And to Tom's point, everybody's in there is young. I'm fortunate enough for the fact that when I got into the league, my first meeting in Miami, I was in there in the NFLPA meeting and talking about benefits. And the only folks that were in there were the specialists and then like players that were over 30. Like that was it. The 22, 21s, they were gone. At the time, I think I was like 25. So I sat in on it. But at that age, like those guys don't know about it. They're trying to study their playbook. Then they want to go to the crib. They're not thinking about 10 years down the line. When I was there, we had the whole CBA, we had the lockout, and they were thinking about, how we're going to do it for 10 years down the line. My career didn't last 2 more years. You know what I'm saying? Players working now, the guys young on the rosters, they get big checks. They get good money. Veterans have gotten cut for the sake of them, getting more money at those younger positions. So there would have to be some changes for sure. And it's kind of hard to tell a younger player who knows their career is only 1, 2, maybe 3 years to, hey, make a vote or make a decision for players that are 10 years behind you. It doesn't really resonate. It doesn't sink in for some people to do that. So I appreciate Tom's comment. But when the way it's set up right now, you got to go get your bag, and everybody's trying to keep you from getting your bag. Let's give you some real life stats. Running backs or the NFL career is less than 3 years, right? To be real, to get your benefits, it's got to be 3 years and 3 games. So it's set up for you to not get it, right? It's set up for you to not get it. So we would love to have protection for the players, but it's going to be a big, long battle, and hopefully it gets cleared out down the line.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, you can talk all day about player safety, but when your actions don't show it, I think that's one of the biggest issues. And some stuff's unavoidable, but there's also a level of a lot of things that can be prevented, like not playing on short weeks and not having an 18th game. As much as we all love football, I think, again, I would rather see, I'm with you, David, the double headers on Sunday and Monday night. I've been screaming for double headers on Monday night for years. Do that. Give us an extra week of the playoffs instead, because those are even more meaningful games than like, a Jaguars Raiders game at the end of the season that nobody cares about when both teams are eliminated from the playoffs. Give us better quality football. And I think a 16-game schedule was a sweet spot, but we've lost that. They're never going to cut away a game. Like we know where this is going to go in the end. There's too much money. They're expanding this thing. They're sending them to Germany and Brazil and all these other places. The travel's a grind. Like, none of the actions the NFL has given us tell us that they actually care about players and player safety and the quality of the game as much as they care about the money that they're getting. So
I mean,
that's what it is.
expand the
All right.
roster. Like
Yeah,
why is
I would love
Preston
that.
Smith just coming in here in mid-September to get ready to play for Washington after they lose Dietrich White Jr. Like expand the rosters, expand the there's so much. And but to Anthony, to your point too, I think a part of I don't want to say a problem with the NFLPA, but I think as the NFLPA continues to develop and grow, and I think they're kind of moving in that direction a little bit, is this needs to be taken out of the locker room. Like, the locker room guys and your team representatives, you obviously have to have the pulse of the players and all that stuff. Give the insight to the NFLPA. But the movers and shakers that really make this thing happen for the NFLPA and for the players need to be guys that are no longer in the league, guys that are probably older and are living life post-playing, post-pads. And those need to be the movers and shakers, because to your point, is Ale Cajo going to stand here in this locker room and be like, we shouldn't be playing on Thursday? No, he don't want to get cut. You know what I mean? He's focusing on, can I get active for a game? And all so he's not going to be a rabble rouser. He's not going to be, a mover and a shaker, because he wants to, like Anthony said, he wants to protect his livelihood. These guys know their career clock is ticking before they even hit the draft weekend. Forget if you were undrafted or whatever. Before you even hit the league, your clock is already ticking down. So that puts them in a position of disadvantage. We need to put people in the NFLPA that don't have to worry about that, because then the players in the locker room, if evil owner before Josh Harris wants to come down and say, hey, player X, do you agree with what the NFLPA is saying? Now that player can go, hey, boss, man, I'm grabbing my pads. We're going out to the field, bro. I don't know nothing. I'm just trying to work on this sweep protection. You know what I mean? I'm trying to contain the edge. Don't worry. That's them. That's not me. Take that. It takes a little bit of ownership away from them, but take the accountability, take the responsibility of being the mover and shaker against the NFL away from the guys who are currently trying to carve those careers out.
All right, final thoughts on what to expect against the Raiders on Sunday. It's Commander Squad. And of course, the NFL season's back. There's nothing better than being at the stadium surrounded by fans, right? You're cheering on your team, but we got to be honest with ourselves. Getting tickets, it can be an absolute hassle. There's the queues and the login screens and the delays and all kinds of other stuff jumping out at checkout. It's incredibly frustrating, but that's why I use, and everybody should use, Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast. It's easy. It's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. Plus, and this is the key right here, all the fees are included, so the price you see is actually the price you're going to pay, which is nice in a world that's full of subscriptions and just add-ons at the very, very end. You can pull it up. I just did it before this show, and I saw all kinds of deals. I mean, games that, that's under $100, Commanders game. You're looking at some great quality tickets there. They find all the best for you. They give you an opportunity to actually see where all of the seats are on top of that. They call that zone deals. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, you save big. All these other options just to make things easier, right? We want convenience. We want easy. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time and the Game Time app today. All right, so let's finish this thing up here, guys. We know injuries are certainly an issue. Jayden Daniels' status certainly still up in the air. I think if we were all to make a prediction here, it certainly feels like, at least from I won't put words in your guys' mouth, but it kind of feels like we're probably going to see Marcus Mariota out there starting against the Raiders on Sunday. Look, Brock Bowers is the biggest thing that they've got to watch, but he's banged up right now. When I see the game, and we were texting before this show too, Geno Smith throwing a bunch of picks, this feels like a get-right game for Washington, but you also at the same time can't go into this with the mindset of, look at what Geno did. Look at how out of sync the Raiders looked. We should go in and win this thing. But this is an opportunity for them, with Jayden or without Jayden Daniels, Anthony, I think, to go in and just kind of get yourself right mentally, right? Like, I think a lot of people overlook, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I played in the NFL. You did, but like, there's a mental side of this that gets forgotten all the time. And to just kind of finish this game out right, to be 2-1, whether or not Jayden Daniels plays, I think is a great spot for them to just take a deep breath. I think that really matters for this team this early in the season.
Nick, I want these guys to show up and take command. They have to bring the
I see what
fight
you did
to
there.
this team.
Well
Yes,
done. Well
indeed.
done.
Take command and bring the fight to this team. I'm telling you, regardless who the starting quarterback is, you have to bring some aggression to it. I'm telling you, I've mentioned special teams plenty of times. Be aggressive carrying the ball out. A lot of times Carlson kicks the ball. It lands about the 5-yard line. It's a low line drive thing. In the chat, they were talking about Luke McCaffrey. He had a couple of good returns in the preseason. Maybe he gets the ball and can put the offense in good field position. I would love to see this team starting at the plus 35, plus 40. Well, hell, that'd be great. The plus side, but near in the 50, you know what I'm saying, on their starting position. That makes the field that much shorter. That means Marcus or JD5 or Marcus or JD5. Let's leave it to those two. If they're back there, that's going to make it that much easier for the offense to get down. You're only a couple first downs away from being in field goal range. Don't want to have a whole bunch of Tress Way going on in this game. Defensively, bring the attitude. Take command once again. Bring it to them and make them adjust to you. You can't let Geno and them get back and get comfortable. You really have to show some aggression to make them feel uncomfortable the whole entire game, David.
No, I'm with you on that. I think that, the great thing about a Dan Quinn culture is everybody knows right up front who we want to be, how we want to get down, to use his own words. And when you do that, and when your team falls short of it, the coaches have to take stock. Where did we miss the mark on getting these players ready to go out there and be that type of personality? And the players have to take stock. Where did we miss out on performing the way that we need to perform? And I think ultimately, from a schematic standpoint, don't do favors to your opponent. You know what I mean? I feel like 6 designed runs in the first half against Green Bay Packers. I know there were more carries because of Jayden, but there's 6 designed runs in the first half against the Green Bay Packers, 7 designed runs in the second half. And people will say, yeah, but in the second half, they're trying to play catch up. Okay, that makes the first half 6 design runs actually worse than the fact that you have more design runs in the second half when you were trying to play catch up. You took your own running game out of the game plan for the Packers. I know they got a good run defense. Make them prove that on Thursday night they're going to have a good run defense. Listen, Las Vegas Raiders right now, one of the best defenses up the middle. If you're trying to run behind your guards or between your guards, the Raiders are actually one of the best defenses in the last 2 weeks. Make them prove that on Sunday they're going to be that good of a defense between the guards. Don't just take the game away from them for them. Make them prove, but then also exploit those edges where so far they've been weak. The left side of their defense has been weak against deep passes. Exploit their weaknesses, make them show you they're going to be strengths. Go after their strengths, make them show you it's not going to be a weakness this week, and just be aggressive. Like you said, take command. I'm a little bit of a tape nerd. I've never played the NFL. I never pretend to play in the NFL, but I do love to watch tape. I love to study the game as much as I possibly can. Anthony, this Raiders defense, and I don't know what the Commanders call it, but cover 2 trap with Marcus Lattimore over there, Trey Amos trying to bait Geno Smith into a short route, jump all over it. These safeties over top, ready to clobber that wide receiver if the ball gets through. That feels like a perfect coverage call at some point in time in this game, and I think it could work for a big turnover, not just takeaway, but if you're calling the right spot and it works, could be a pick 6.
Could be a pick 6. You ain't lying. I know D Hall used to play that 2 trap pretty good.
Hey.
If you have good range, they can kind of steal it, make looks like they're going to drop back under that corner and then break back underneath on something in the flat. So I like that play call. We get a little Nick Ashooh, Marcus Lattimore revenge pick, David Harrison calling the coverage. Shoot, man, I'm for that. Y'all like and comment and subscribe, because we'll be here after the game saying how they predicted these 2 things to happen.
Before we go, Gerald brings this up. Kicking. We haven't even talked about the struggles in the kicking game right now. Good God. Matt Gay better get it right this week, or they're going to be looking for a new kicker very quickly. That's one thing, David, it feels like they haven't been able to settle this at all, has been the kicking game.
Yeah, look, man, I love DQ for his loyalty, man. But the ship has sailed for me on the bring competition in for Matt Gay. I've never been a big fan of just cut a dude outright, bring in a new kicker. Honestly, I want competition. Let's put the screws to him. I've been calling for competition for Matt Gay since training camp. Nothing has changed that, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's
Just
one
keep
of those
shout-
one of them kickers,
keep
man.
shouting from the mountaintops. Yeah.
Them kickers are different, man. Them kickers are wired different. It's like if you bring in a competition, then you can see they get nervous already just seeing there's 3 other people in the building. But that's the type of pressure you got to be under. Look, when I was in Miami with Bill Parcells and them, they had 3 or 4 people trying out every single week, and you knew it too. You missed a play on defense, here comes 3 safeties trying out. I didn't want to play because I was like, I'm gonna get in there and mess up and get fired. So yeah, that you got to bring in the pressure though to get the best out of everybody. You know what I mean? Matt Gay, look, you get paid to kick it through the pipes, baby. Make it happen. Make it happen.
Kickers are the heroes when they're Brandon Aubrey kicking 64-yard field goals. But man, when they are they're the bad kind of goat. They are the bad kind of goat. All right. We will be back after Commanders Raiders, and hopefully it's a 2-1 season and a start for this team that clearly needs it, whether it's Marcus Mariota or whether it's Jayden Daniels. Of course, David Harrison will continue with the Locked On Commanders podcast throughout the rest of the week as well. Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, Nick Ashooh. This is Commanders Squad.